Welcome to Burn the Ship, my friend. The
Thank you.
new and improved version, dual produced version of Burn the Ship. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for accepting our invite to be a guest on our podcast. This is my new friend Sergio here. Runs his own photography business close to us in Marietta. We're in Ackworth. So I'm excited to have you here today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce us? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me over and for the invite. My name is Sergio Santos. I'm with SQS Photography, a headshot specialist here in the area.
Cool. So how did you kind of get into this business? Tell me a little bit of a story of how you got into what you're doing now.
Well, that's back on the day. I originally started with photography when I was a kid, but
Oh, wow.
working on it was when I moved to New York in 2005 that I started studying deeply and fall in love with it.
Hmm.
So from 2005, from many years forward, just learning, and shooting whatever
Sure.
shows up in restaurants, food,
Sure.
models, anything. And then I found in love with headshots. I found out that that can be so empowering and so like it gives so much to people that I'm like, okay, I think that's finally found my niche.
Sure. Well,
So
it's exciting that you found a business and then kind of, asserted that with your passion. You were passionate about photography and capturing these moments, and then you found kind of that business aspect of that. When did that kind of transition? Did you go to school when you moved to New York? Is that kind of what ignited your passion for photography, or you had kind of been self-taught before that?
a little bit of both. I did some schooling, more like specific courses on specific subjects that I would like to learn more on the time. I did workshops with major photographers in New
Sure.
York and things like that, but I never did a full like
Photography
photography
school.
school.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary anyway.
I would help a lot if I had it. I
Sure. So, well,
think.
you would definitely be better at some stuff,
Yeah.
But as far as the business aspect goes, is that
No.
if you find kind of what your niche is and and perfect it and protect that thing, because a lot of what you do obviously is keeping up with the technology and understanding of what it is that you can do different this day compared to that day.
Hmm.
So once you kind of figure that out, the business application is there. Obviously as an artist yourself, as a creative, and I'm kind of the same way, especially with the whole podcast thing, is that you want it to look and feel a certain way, so you always want to kind of be perfecting your craft. Like Burn the Ship is good for your business, good for our brand. We're putting a lot of value out about that, and
Yes.
I just absolutely stress about these lights. I'm like, gosh, I really wish I had a couple $1,000 set of diffuse lights, So it just it depends. Everybody's eye is a little different for it. So it's 2005. You're in New York. You've done a little bit of school, and how did you come down here to Atlanta?
Wow, that was a couple. Is it 2 years already? Almost 2 years ago, in the middle of the pandemic.
Love it.
Of course, everything closed in New York, as you probably heard down here. It was a really bad time. Its studio closed, everything closed. So my husband actually got a proposal for work.
Wow.
So he got, okay, I can work anywhere. I can bring my company and restart. And he
Sure.
got a dream job. So okay,
It's actually an
let's
incredible
talk.
opportunity.
Yeah, so we did. And I don't regret a second of it because I'm in love with Georgia.
Dude, New York has still kind of got the COVID chokehold right now.
Yes.
And we've been
Yes.
living our life for a long time in Georgia.
Yeah, many friends are saying that like it's almost back to what it was. Of course, not with a better structure now, but
Sure.
still really
Sure.
bad. So
Sure.
let's see what happens.
Well, that's pretty exciting. Tell me kind of what being a business owner is like. So, tell me about kind of that transition from being a creative, learning this skill, and then you say, "Hey, I kind of want to turn this into a business." What was it like the first time you had to put that hat on as a business owner?
Wow. I think when the bills start piling, you
Yeah,
start
yeah.
to figure it out.
Yeah.
I cannot only just shoot and be, oh, it's my art, it's my beauty,
Sure.
it's what I want to do, and now think that you actually have to maintain yourself and
Sure.
improve, and you have to have that money to buy that camera that's not cheap at all.
Right. Right.
So that's what like when things start kicking in, especially in New York when it was really expensive to live there and everything. So the business starts like it became kind of natural, but at the same time it's a fight inside because many times you just want to be the artist or sometimes you just want to be the business owner
Right.
and not necessarily both talk at
Sure.
the same time.
Sure.
So it's still a struggle in that sense for me, but I think like with so many experience, so many years of experience, I've been I think getting the maturity to answer to who I need to hear now, like
Mm-hmm.
what persona I have to hear now, like who is more important, because both of them are super important. You
Sure.
can't be just a business owner, at least in my segment of business. You cannot just be a business owner, or you be just a machine, or I don't know. You yeah, you just go and take a portrait with like no human being behind.
Yeah, a photo booth.
A photo booth. That's it.
Right.
That's the name.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense because you're struggling between that creative and that business aspect. What was sales like for you? So you're going out, I'm assuming at this time is the first time you've hit a networking group or knocked on a door or, sent an email or a Facebook message that said, "Hey, I want to do business with you. Here's what it costs." What was it like kind of learning to put that sales cap on?
It was very difficult, especially
You
to.
think that was the hardest part?
I think so, because of the part of like how much my work is valuable, and that's, I think, the artist's most weird proposition, because let's put on headshots. Like, okay, I can. For me nowadays, it's simple to do to bring a headshot out. Like, I have many setups already in the head, and like I just can
Mm-hmm.
pull up 4 or 5 looks for you, like in no time. But how can I value that? Oh, it's just and then you have that classic question. But come on, you were behind the camera for like an hour, and you
Right.
charge me that amount of money. It's like, yeah, but behind the camera, before that, I was 15, 17 years studying,
Right.
preparing myself.
I've bought all this technology.
Technology that's very expensive, and that we as an artist, we forget. We have a tendency to forget. And like when I started putting the business, okay, but hey, I am good at I'm doing. The quality of the work is coming out really good. Why am I not charging? And then like for me it was like, let's look around. In New York, at least on that point, is really rich. There's so many photographers
Oh, yeah.
around, amazing photographers on headshot. And I started looking around, and okay, let's network a little. So on the time, I think my first network in New York was with Peter Hurley's. He has a
Mhm.
group of photographer online, and has a lot of workshops and things like that. And he's fantastic. I think his work is really, really commercial, amazing. So that like kind of hooked me up for a while, and I did a lot of network through that, and getting to know a lot of people through it. It was really good. And with that started the business part, and that's okay. Let's charge. Let's create a. Okay, how much for that session? How much for that session? How much for that? And we start to create and developing from it. It was difficult. I made many mistakes. Many, like,
Sure.
I don't know my costs. I don't know my branding. I don't
Mhm.
know anything like that. So that part was really difficult. As soon as we started getting it, until today, every like month or two, I go back to my price listings. I go back to my package and see, okay, what can I tweak here? What can I improve here? What can I make better?
Just kind of double down on those processes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it seems like something that you guys have done really well. Would you say is that even though you've kind of learned how to put this business owner hat on and monetize your skill and continue to kind of push in that direction of, hey, I'm going to figure out how I can reduce this stack of bills down with this skill that I have accumulated, which is honestly a way that a ton of people start businesses, both successfully and unsuccessfully. Would you say that valuing your art has been something that you guys have done really well? Because it seems like on the outside looking in that you've kind of added a sales element, you've added a marketing and branding element, you've added probably some value added services, probably looked at partners that can do things that you don't do, that can really kind of create some bang for your buck for some of those clients. All in all, while still the underlying assumption is that the art is valuable, which is interesting to me. Is like how do you determine that value for your art? Because is it always, hey, this headshot is going to live on LinkedIn, it's going to hopefully help you kind of close this amount of deals? Whereas I kind of look at it a different way, is that the value in your art is the way that it makes people feel, whether that is me or you or whoever that is. So how do you balance those things? Is that valuing your art and valuing your time, as well as kind of how do you equate that value to your business?
I think one of the most important parts of my business is that part of the empowering people. To get to the business part, I need to connect to the client. I need to have that expression. I need to bring that person out of shell.
Sure.
There's no person that comes to the studio and see a bunch of cameras and a bunch of light that won't freeze.
Sure.
Even models, they'll freeze for a second, but then they'll they'll come out really fast. But normal people, especially like me, I'm freezing here right now. We freeze in front of cameras, and we have that. So we have to bring. I have to, like you're doing, like you can bring that
Sure.
shell, take the person out of the shell, and that for me is really important because we had to connect. We had to connect the soul. We had to connect to the person that's in front of me every second.
Well, you kind of identified a purpose to your business.
Definitely,
Right.
and empower. Like what for me was the word empowerment was really intense because of this. Because many people that were meeting back on the day when I started doing the headshots were like completely like no idea how they looked, and then they would see the headshots and they'd be like, "Oh man, maybe I can get that job
Sure.
because I look amazing. Maybe I can book that model gig because here I look fantastic." And some clients will answer like, "Hey, yeah, I booked that job. Like after I show you a headshot, that's fantastic," and I was super happy
Sure.
because that transformation in bringing people off of shells is super important for
Sure.
me, at least.
Oh yeah. Well, it should be for everybody, I think.
Should.
How so for all the people in our audience that are listening right now that probably have a specific set of skills, what advice would you give those people as far as, kind of trying to define what their purpose of their business is?
And that's the tough one because it's very personal.
Of
It's
course,
very,
yeah.
it's
And
very.
and so how did you find it? Like what was that first experience for you like? What was the moment where you realized and said, "Hey, this thing that I can create can make people feel a way that can change their life."
For me specifically was a feeling like a warmth in my
Mhm.
heart, and when I touch those people and I see, okay, that's actually changing people. That's what, like, maybe that's the way that I should go.
Mhm.
And with that information, I start developing a little more of like what I should be, what my brand should look, and then branding. Because I
Sure.
had, that's one thing that we always make mistakes. At least I did when I start business, is the confusion between brand and branding.
Mhm.
The brand is who you are and what you sell, what you believe in, and that's really important. If that's not set in stone in who you are, you can't do your branding,
Mhm.
logos and things and images, and those things will
Yeah.
fall apart.
Yeah,
So
you're like a compass with no N, E, W, or S.
there you go. You're completely lost. And so that's what the thing that you have to really think about it before you do the next step on business. Is like who I am, who I want to be in a few, and who I want to be on the long term, on every sense possible. Like who I am now, what I believe on, what I don't believe on, things like that has to be really strong, and you have to be you because your uniqueness is what is important.
Sure.
Everybody can be everybody,
Absolutely.
and that's nothing cool about that.
Mhm.
What makes a person beautiful is that uniqueness, is a scar here, or a way that the nose is,
Mhm.
or things like that makes someone interesting, makes someone beautiful in different. If
Mhm.
everybody was a copy and paste, there would be no interest
Oh
in the
yeah, it'd be a
world.
very bland world.
Yes.
It'd be a very bland world. What has kind of understanding that value, that empowerment aspect and core value that you guys have in your business, what kind of impact has that kind of had on your life?
Wow. It helped me through a lot as well because I personally wasn't really empowering myself much
Mhm.
back on the day, like when I was much younger, and seeing that I could do that to others actually enlightened me a lot on
Wow.
like how I can
You kind of
respond,
proved your own value to yourself.
and to see that, like, hey, why I'm giving other people as well the ways of empowering and not giving myself the chance.
Mhm.
That's really interesting because we have this tendency to do this. Like, sometimes you all go all out to help others, and you forget that you need to be helped too, and
Sure.
we all need to be helped. And that's the whole point of this empowerment. Like, we need to, it's for everyone, including ourselves. Like, in wow, for
Right.
me, like back on the days, I was a little lost here and there, and then seeing that and having that experience brought me a lot, enriched me as a human being a lot. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that I mean it's honestly it's an incredible point just to wrap it back to photography in general is that the first picture like believed to be recorded in mankind was made through So basically, there was like a skyline of a city. I think it was in Egypt, but it had a focal point that it reflected to, where they kind of built like a glass lens, and basically it saw the city, and the sun made it reflect in a way that it translated that image to a very direct, like a two-dimensional space. So they
Hmm.
put a piece of papyrus there, and over like 29 days, as the sun rose and fell, it slowly burned that image
Hmm.
into the paper. Like that was the original use of photography, and it was because the people that were trying to record that image believed that that was the greatest city of all time, that there would never be a city greater than the city that they were trying to capture. So everything in photography and about capturing a moment has been about empowerment.
Hmm.
What would you say, let's say all the aliens arrive here now and they take all the cameras, all the lenses, all the technology. What do you think you would be doing to try to empower people without that specific set of skills? Where does your heart lie?
Wow. Oh, wow. To be sincere, I would be lost for a little bit.
Yeah, for
Very
sure.
lost, like I am right now.
And probably a little disappointed.
Very disappointed that we don't have cameras, but at the same time, I think it will be really good in the sense that we won't be glued to our cell phones
Right.
and computers, and we'll be
Do you ever
more.
write? Do you like to write?
Not really.
Really?
Not really. Not really.
Really?
I read a lot, but I don't write much. I
Wow.
should. I should. But I think like I'll be more on this talking to people and
Sure.
seeing how I can help and how I can be connected somehow and again bring that person
Sure.
out of their shells.
Well, if our podcast springboards you into millions of dollars in keynote speaking, I'll just assume that my check is in the mail. So
Definitely,
okay.
definitely, because it's my first one actually. And we talked
Yeah.
a little briefly before. It's my first ever in front of the camera. I'm always behind the cameras,
Sure.
and
Well, it's exciting. People like yourself that you should tell your story as well. Like I said, is that's an incredible question that I asked. Then is because if your heart goes to, I want to talk to people and find out what makes people feel empowered. Hopefully, this is a platform that you can kind of replicate. Like I said, our,
definitely.
our studio's here for anybody that has a story they want to relate to entrepreneurs and people that want to empower themselves. So I definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing that story
Thank
for
you.
sure. Tell me a couple of more things here. How do we get a hold of you?
Uh, my social media is at SQS Photography. So you can find me in Instagram and Facebook. As well, my email is sqs@sqsphotography.com. So you can always find me. And phone number is 347-466-6575.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on, my friend. I just got one more question for you. I want you to bottle up that moment that you started this business. Like I said, Burn the Ship podcast is an allusion to what we equate to business as saying we're going to figure it out here in this business or we're going to die. We're going all in on our business. What was that moment like for you to go all in on your business? And to those people that are sitting on the opposite side of this camera now that are listening to this podcast that are thinking, hey, I really want to quit my job and acquire this business, or hey, I have this skill, I really want to go out on my own and try my own luck at running my own business. What would you say to those people that are kind of weighing the pros and cons of that experience? What would you say is kind of unique to your experience?
A great person once read somewhere. The phrase was like, if I waited for the time that was ready, I will never be doing anything and I wouldn't ever be ready. So that's the thing. Don't wait for perfection. Just
Sure.
go for your dreams. Follow it. And of course, get some basics and oh, I want to be a photographer and then you don't study. Might not work.
Right.
So those kinds of things. Like for me, the burning the ship was a shipwreck because it was a lot. It just a lot of emotions. It's very expensive. And how am I going to survive? Do I Do I have a place to fall back? No, I don't. And that's literally burning the ship. Like
Sure.
it is what it is. Not. We had to work,
Right.
make things work. So it's amazing. It's exhilarating. It's fearsome.
It is.
But don't let the fear control. Don't let the fear drop you down. Like just do it.
I think that's an incredible point. It really is that if you let anything hold you back, it will.
you
If
will.
there's anything that can hold you back,
Definitely
it will.
will.
So, and I actually had a guy that had an incredible answer to that question that said, if there is any way for you to be happy without owning and being responsible for everything that you had in there in your own business, that you should. But if you are going to step into business, you have to do all the things. You have to build and develop that skill. You have to understand your marketing and brand. You have to understand how to sell and advertise.
Hmm.
You have to burn the ship. That's really the only way. So I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your insight, my friend. Sergio, SQS Photography, thank you for coming on. We'll be sure to have you back.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
Cool.
Thank you.
Intro fade. Transition.